We need to have a serious discussion about football at the moment and the state it's in. And I'm not talking about the game itself, I'm talking more about the peripherals of the game. Feels like there's a lot of protection in the game at the moment. And there's a lot of things that kind of go by, and despite the fact that they are scrutinized a little bit, the actual level of scrutiny is too low from a higher up perspective, to the point where it's actually quite worrying as a precedent. You've got players like Mason Greenwood, who are able to play the sport basically with no repercussions at all, despite us all knowing what he is, and there being a lot of evidence to suggest what he is. He's just won the French Division Player of the Month award off the back of that horrible atrocity he committed. And let's not hide behind the fact that he was a young person when he did that. I think at that age, you know what you're doing. You're smart enough to understand that is something that is unacceptable. And the fact he's still able to have a career, and a fruitful one at that, is a slap in the face to be honest, society. The fact that so many people get locked up for things that are a fraction of that severity, with a fraction of the impact that will have on people, and a fraction of, the fame and influence he's going to be able to go on and now claim as a result. He's living a life of luxury. He is living every small person's dream, pretty much, completely scot-free, despite the fact that he's done that. And this is not a new thing. There have been a lot of footballers that have done quite sketchy things, shall we say. I'm not to call what Greenwood did sketchy at all. That is just outright immoral, bankrupt, and frankly despicable on every level. But we've seen for a while now, things like that kind of just got tossed on the carpet. Like even with Arsenal's Thomas Partey. I'm an Arsenal fan. I like the club. I would like to think that we're an ethically run club. Certainly when it comes to diversity, and certainly when it comes to opportunity for people, we are one of the best when it comes to that. With the women's team, with our disabled teams, and with a multiple of other opportunities that are given to people in and around the club from minority backgrounds. But I can't excuse this. The fact that I've made a video on this in the past, but the Thomas Partey situation, it is phenomenal to me as well that he is able to do what he's doing. Every time we play in Spain, he picks up a magical injury for 2 days, and then he's playing again on the weekend if we're playing in the Champions League. And these charges are, yes, alleged, but when you actually dig slightly deeper into the evidence, and there are photographs of what allegedly happened, and I'm saying allegedly just because I don't particularly want to fall into that wrong kind of side of whatever this thing is. But I do think it's slightly interesting, all the kind of side evidence we're given, as well as the actual evidence that person brought forward, who is the alleged victim of that assault. I think it's really interesting as well how much it's covered up by the media. I've never once heard any outright publication from the man himself in the press. He's given private comments, and Arsenal Football Club have never really released any statements in relation, and I've never seen Sky or anyone like that really address any of that stuff. And sure, they're a broadcaster, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to do so. When he's getting booed on TV, they never mention it in the commentary, and I understand why. But I think as a society, we have almost a duty when it comes to this kind of thing to raise that as problematic. I mean, for years we've known of footballers that have been doing shady things. I mean, the whole initial Ryan Giggs thing with the cheating with his brother's wife, that whole situation. Now, while that is immoral, goes against one of the Ten Commandments, and regardless of if you believe in a theistic kind of framework, I think you can probably agree that sleeping with your brother's wife is probably quite unadmirable at the very least, and at the very most is a despicable act. But again, it's funny how even past that, he's able to then go on and do what he did with his wife subsequently. And he was coaching the national team when that happened, when that all came out about him inappropriately laying hands on his wife. And I find it insane to me how quickly that's been hushed up. And yeah, I think he's being protected because I believe at least, the last time I checked, so please don't quote me on this directly, do your own research. I know it's poor for me to give this information, but the last time I checked, which was a few months ago, he still had a lot of shares in and around the whole Salford City movement, which again is interesting because they've tried to kind of hush that down a little bit. Now it's often seen as, oh, the Gary Neville project, that kind of thing. But it's interesting to me how he's still involved with that project. I think that's, again, one of those things that, what are we doing? Are we doing enough to really counteract this? Is that really what we're doing? You know, allowing people that in a sport which is meant to be uplifting, is meant to be an escape, is meant to be a cause for emotion, to be honest, but thoroughly kind of, I guess, more authentic emotion. Having such severe negatives, which we're going to experience in the real world, kind of being intertwined with the sport, it's not what I signed up for, to be honest. And while I'm not going to go anywhere, and in this capitalist system, basically the only way you can really show your disapproval is by boycotting. And am I going to boycott Arsenal Football Club because of the current number 5? No, but am I strongly feeling disdain for my club right now because of this? Yes. Am I severely disappointed in people like Fabrizio Romano, who are able to hold up someone like Mason Greenwood, who has undoubtedly been a horrific person? And okay, the argument people can change is an argument that can be raised, but I think the thing is, when you look at society as a whole, people make way less severe mistakes and are punished so much more dramatically just because they're not given the opportunities he's been given the protection he's been given. And then still he's able to go on with this severe privilege and live out the dreams of so many people, while also, to be honest, causing a tick and a bit of a trigger in a lot of people when they watch him. I can't say I'd ever be comfortable watching that human. If Arsenal played them, or if Swansea played them, I'd struggle to really enjoy the match in the same way. And that's honestly how I feel when I watch Thomas Partey play for us. I feel strongly uncomfortable. And I'm really, really disappointed that to this day he plays for us, because I think it's a lack of principle, and I think it's a bit of a lack of ethics from our club. And I don't want to get too into the Mesut Ozil thing, so it's completely different. That's political. That's not really like a legal thing there, or certainly a moral thing. I feel like that is more of a political issue with the Mesut Ozil thing. But I think in recent years we really haven't handled the human beings at our club properly in certain manners. We've thrown out people that are basically taking a stand for human rights versus someone that has actively violated someone else's, allegedly, right? And yeah, I appreciate Mesut Ozil. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of him towards the end either, because of his performances on the pitch and the way he was training and all that kind of stuff that came out about him. Yeah, that was the reason I was upset about him. But the religious side and the moral side that he was showing up for when it came to the Uyghur Muslims in China and with the Palestinian support, I couldn't have been more behind him, right? So I think it's a bit of a lack of principle in football at the moment. And yeah, I understand the concept money talks. I understand the concept that it's a winning sport and you do everything you can to win. We're pushing for a title right now. To get rid of that, one of our crucial midfield players, who sometimes is deployed right back for some reason, but again, completely irrelevant to the point I'm making. Sorry for that sidetrack. I think it is indicative of a greater problem with football and arguably society at the moment, where we're able to brush away these major issues, these major kind of flaws in people, and just accept it because it is what it is, because they have money or because they're in a certain position, and it's inconvenient to uproot them. It's inconvenient to call someone out. It's inconvenient to sack him in that position, because I think ultimately we're in a point now where it doesn't matter if people are completely full of nonsense, if they're lying, if they're spreading hate, negativity. You can see it with the political scene of the world currently. We're heading into a more fascist direction in a lot of countries, this one included. And while it is creeping, it's not like the kind of tsunami that I'm maybe hyperbolizing there. I'm sorry if you got that impression. We're in a position now where we're setting dangerous precedents for ourselves by not sticking up for what is right, what is, to be honest, black and white, really. I don't understand, genuinely, in my heart of hearts, how Mason Greenwood is still able to play football. And why people aren't more frustrated with the likes of Fabrizio, with OM even, and with all the people protecting him. And the same with Thomas. Now, yes, I understand that one is more alleged, but I guarantee he will never go to Spain again in his life, and, well, I really wonder why that is. Is it because of the 5 charges that he's been accused of? Is it because the fact that, when he went there for a court hearing, he didn't go back for the second? And there's so many things there to unpack which are really, really problematic. And I just wish that, I guess, as a football community, there was more proactive kind of backlash towards this rather than just what is relative silence, I think. And yeah, I don't think it's in the interests of Arsenal Football Club, of OM, or of the boards or the higher-ups of those clubs and the media companies that deal with them to discuss this. But I think the onus is on us. And ultimately, that is the best we can do, is show our discontent, threaten to take our business elsewhere, and potentially do so, because the way I currently see it, Arsenal's a very close thing in my heart. It's one of the only reasons I have a okay relationship with my adopted dad. And I just think that if it does keep going this way, if the football club keeps going in this direction, I will eventually cut ties, because it is something on a moral level that I cannot fathom, I cannot level with, that we are employing someone like that. And that despite all the good we're doing for communities, don't get me wrong, I think there's definitely a lot more good that the club and the foundation do as a whole that needs to be praised. But I think the repeated kind of picking and choosing of who you pick sides with on a moral level, just because they're performing on the football pitch, is highly problematic as a precedent, and selling our soul to the devil. I'm not calling Thomas the devil, don't get me twisted. I'm saying what he's allegedly accused of is definitely there or thereabouts the work of, though. And I think, as a result, if it keeps going in that direction, I will have to take my money elsewhere, really. And I don't want to do that. I'd really appreciate the football club kind of just taking a step back and cutting ties with such people and being less kind of, not petty, but more thoughtful, I suppose, in that manner. And I know, obviously, it sounds stupid, me, 20-year-old, criticising an entire foundation of a football club and their ethics because they're employing one person, despite all the good they're doing. I do appreciate that. But I think on a certain level, you have to say it, no, this isn't okay. Yes, you're doing a lot of good things, but if I'm going to shout your praises, I'm also going to have to shout, when you are truly in the wrong. And I think this is something that they are truly in the wrong with. And I'm shocked he's still playing for us. And I'm genuinely disappointed. But anyway, enough on that. Got a bit serious. So apologies if you were offended or triggered by anything I mentioned. If you're still watching, thank you. Don't normally like doing this, but if you could do all the YouTubey things, the commenting, the liking, subscribing, all that stuff, that would be lovely. And yeah, hopefully see you around. All right, that's that.